Hi, everyone. My name's Johnny. I realize I'm all that's standing between you and leaving this place. So I'm going to try to make this as entertaining as possible. I am a journalist, and some of you might have seen my work through Unequal Scenes. I have an organization called African Drone, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And I'm kind of going to go through three different parts in this conversation. I'm going to talk about drone journalism. I'm going to talk about drone mapping for good, and then I'm going to talk about drone delivery for good. And then I'm going to end with just a little recap of how I see perhaps a modification of South African drone regulations, or perhaps a different way of approaching them that could significantly benefit the population that lives in South Africa, that benefits from things that I'm about to show you. I'm going to leave that a little bit vague, but you'll see as I go through. Okay, so African Drone, we're a nonprofit. I'm actually living here. I know my accent's American, but I live in Cape Town. I've been there for 7 years. So I started this African nonprofit, and we try to empower civic drone pilots, and by that I mean people who are doing this not just for profit, but for a particular social reason. We think that drones give citizens powerful new ways to better understand their world. They improve public accountability. We especially focus on activists, changemakers, and journalists specifically. African Drone is funded by Code for Africa, which is an NGO that is focused on building up journalistic capacity throughout Africa, specifically using new tech tools to do that, and to upskill Africans to tell their own stories. And this is a list of things that we do as African Drone. So we have a focus of looking not just in South Africa, but East Africa is a big hub of ours. My partners who founded African Drone with me are based in Dar and Nairobi. And we empower them through direct funds. So we have some funds to give to journalists to tell stories using drones. We do drone camps. I do events like this, which I consider part of advocacy, and write stories. I mean, we engage with the media, and we've got a lot of very influential media partners that have partnered up with us to use drones to tell stories. This is kind of an old slide, but these are the partners that we have in particular countries, and there's a couple more now. For example, Ethiopia. A lot of these countries have vastly different regulatory environments. Pretty much this whole conference we've been talking about South Africa, but I don't know, it seems like some of you do work in other countries in Africa, but if you get tasked to go fly in Kenya, can you do that? Can you guys take your drones from Cape Town or Joburg and fly to Nairobi and get out of the airplane and be fine going through customs? Question mark, right? So that was actually the initial seed of the idea that led me to start this organization. And the question is no, actually. So leave the drone at home, unless you've got a special dispensation. I was just in Rwanda last week, and they scan all your bags through the X-ray machine. And there's big signs everywhere, don't take drones in, so just a word to the wise. And I just wanted to bring some clarity to this. If you guys go online and Google what are the drone laws in Rwanda, you get a bunch of really weird websites. So africandrone.org is our website, and I'm trying to standardize that. And I'm happy, by the way, email me if you guys have any particular information that you think isn't widely available. Like I said, we're going to talk about drone journalism, civic mapping, drone delivery. But there's a variety of other uses, and people have talked about them ad nauseum in this conference. So I just want to kind of dive into drone journalism. Looks like one of the photos on the left there didn't play. That's cool. This is a photo that actually has never been presented before. It's from a new version of Unequal Scenes that I'm doing. Does anyone know what that community is in Cape Town? No? A couple people at the back who were with me on the shoot. It's a community called, Wolferivier. So Wolferivier is essentially an internally displaced persons camp that the city of Cape Town has set up for people who are being gentrified out of Woodstock. So as you might be able to tell, I have kind of a activist bent to my work. The idea that the city of Cape Town is placing people who can't afford housing anywhere else in the city in this place, in the middle of nowhere, 35 k's from the middle of Cape Town, to me is deeply problematic. And I think, and hopefully you agree, that drones are the best way to showcase issues like these. This is quintessential drone journalism as I'm defining it. You could do this with a helicopter. I just don't have access to those funds. And pretty much every media company in South Africa operating in the form of journalism doesn't have those funds. So drones open up this amazing world of being able to tell stories for good by average reporters, average citizens. Drone journalism. So these are some other stories that I've helped out with. You can see the partners that we've got on the bottom there, some pretty influential partners who have worked with us throughout Africa. We've done stories on the droughts, which is a big story. Actually, a couple years ago in Calvinia, they ran out of water. So we went up there. Drones helped us do a story for Carte Blanche on drone poaching, or I'm sorry, Perlemmon poaching, that some of you may have seen. And then in the upper right-hand corner, I did a US story for The Guardian, and that's an aerial photo of Detroit. Really what I'm trying to do is help define what I mean by drone journalism and then create a template that other journalists can use around the world. I'm not trying to say that I'm the only drone journalist. There's tons of drone journalists. The New York Times is a great drone journalist. But we're all in the process of refining what we mean by drone journalism and creating sort of a pantheon or sort of an ethics of how we do our work. So I just want to hammer this point. Journalism is really key to a free and functioning democracy. It speaks truth to power. Journalists can hold up a mirror to people in power and show them what's actually going on in the world. And let's not underestimate the power that drones can play to do that. So when we start talking about the regulatory environment, how difficult it is for the average person to get up into the air and fly, what you're really doing, in part, is stifling that ability to speak truth to power. So I think that's kind of the bigger point that I want to make that I hopefully you guys take away. Drone journalism in this country, full stop, is untenable. It's untenable due to the cost. The quotes that I got for a job just the other day, 23,000 Rand for one day of filming in Cape Town. 23,000 Rand. Do you think News 24 or Cape Times or whatever newspaper can afford? No, they can't. Carte Blanche definitely can't afford that. So what we're doing is subsidizing the industry through our direct funds to try to make drone journalism happen with the hope that it'll catch fire. I just want to quickly run through some other projects. Drone mapping. So one of our partners in Tanzania works really closely with the World Bank. And you might be surprised, but Tanzania is actually on the forefront of drone mapping worldwide. So the Ramani Huria project, and that's what is reflected up here, uses drones to map Dar es Salaam to, I think they're mapping it to 5 or 6 centimeter accuracy, which is very accurate. They're doing it for disaster mitigation and risk assessment and land tenure. I think those are amazing reasons to map with drones. Only 30% of the world's land is under a form of registration system. And part of that is because there's not accurate maps that exist everywhere in the world, and specifically in Africa. Drones can change that. Previously, aerial maps had to be created either with satellites or with low-flying airplanes. Both of those are extremely expensive, and actually they don't provide you a very high level of accuracy. You guys are all smart people in here. You probably know that to get satellite data, which seems like the obvious answer, the obvious cheap answer, you can do all the mapping you want. Well, that's fine, but you can only buy it at 31 centimeter accuracy from Digital Globe. And that's the best resolution you can buy commercially, unless you're military. 31 centimeters. So a drone flying over wherever can give you down to, I mean, I'm not a mapping guy, but what, like millimeter accuracy if you really wanted to push it, right? But definitely 1-2 centimeter accuracy, easy. And that's with a Mavic or a Phantom. So the ability to map and to really map for good, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm happy to do things for profit, obviously. I'm not against making profit, but this specifically I'm talking about for social reasons. Just at the bottom, just as a note, the Sustainable Development Goals that the UN promulgated, drone mapping directly supports SDG 11, which is the goal of creating resilient, safe cities. So Ramani Huria, just a little bit more information about it. It's really important to note that it's managed and run by Tanzanian citizens, a guy named Freddie Mbuya. So he's actually the co-partner in African Drone. He's working with the World Bank. He's training up Tanzanian pilots. This is the largest drone survey of any urban area on Earth up to this point. They've just completed the island of Zanzibar and Pemba. And those are the largest mapped areas using drones anywhere on Earth. That's in Tanzania. So cutting-edge mapping technology is happening right here in Africa, which I think we should be proud of and we should be pretty excited about. Part of that, by the way, is because the government of Tanzania has presciently seen the benefit of a drone-friendly environment. That's pretty key. I was just in Rwanda last Thursday. A lot of people have been bringing up Zipline. This is Zipline. That's the Zipline drone taking off to deliver blood to the hospitals in Rwanda. It's an incredible system. I highly encourage you guys to go there if you're in Rwanda. It's about an hour outside of Kigali. It's an American company. It's a startup. They're doing it for profit, but they're working with the Rwandan government, literally packaging boxes of blood into these drones, putting them on this launcher, and then they fly up to an hour away, which would have taken, no, maybe it's not an hour-long flight. It was about a 45-minute long flight, I think, because that's the max of their battery. That would have taken 4 to 5 hours driving, someone said earlier, in a motorcycle with blood on the back, degrading as in the heat and everything like that. And it's really cool. They've got these iPad Pros that they handed to me because I was actually filming the drones, right? And they handed me this iPad Pro, and every drone that's in the air is reflected on this iPad Pro. So you can actually see in real time where all these drones are. You can see the telemetry data. They've mapped out every flight path. They've steered it away from cities. They haven't had a failure yet. It's an incredibly successful system. When the drone gets to the hospital, and we film this as well, you hear the drone coming. You don't know which direction it's going to come because we didn't have the iPads at the hospital. It either comes from one of two directions based on the wind. It flies over the site, opens the bay, and then literally a little parachute comes down and someone runs out, catches the parachute, or picks it up off the ground, and goes inside and saves a life. Why are we not doing this in South Africa? We should be. Zipline is actually looking to expand, by the way. They're looking to expand into Ghana, and they're looking to expand into Tanzania, not South Africa. Why not? Let's skip through this. Okay, I just want to briefly touch on the Lake Victoria Challenge. With our partner in Tanzania and the World Bank, African Drone is looking to be a part of the organizational committee to set up the Lake Victoria Challenge. If any of you guys are interested in autonomous delivery drones, manufacturing them, I know there's some manufacturers here, this is going to be a challenge where we I don't exactly know what the challenge is, but it has to do with delivering things using autonomous drones in the Lake Victoria region, which is the world's most densely populated rural area, which sounds like an oxymoron, but evidently it's not. And I don't really, go to lakevictoriachallenge.com. I don't have time to play the video, but it's coming up probably next year, not in October 2018, which is in a few months. It's going to be next year. Okay, challenges. Look at how much it costs in the USA. I'm licensed in the USA, by the way, to fly commercially. It cost me $150. $150, and I could go out the same day with a paper copy of my license and fly commercially. It's $28,000 in South Africa. All in for your RPL and your ROC. That is disgusting to me. Why is it so expensive? That's directly untenable, I think. And I'm just going to come out and say it. I think it needs to change. I think we need to modify either the ecosystem that allows private training organizations to charge so much, or the actual law by the CAA to be able to bring that price down, because it's stifling the industry. Okay, other African countries have it better, but they also have it worse. I'm glad we don't live in Nigeria, because look at this. You must be vetted by the National Security Advisor, must complete this training course. This website, by the way, doesn't work. And for more information, read about remote pilot license. This is from their website. That link doesn't work. So it could be worse. It could be a total straight-up graft system, but still it's too expensive here. Here's some questions I think need to be answered. If we change the requirement for an ROC, what happens to all of you guys that already have your ROC that invested hundreds of thousands of rands into that system? That's a really valid question, and that definitely needs to be answered. How do we promote the nation's goals of transformation and economic development by structuring a system which only benefits the rich? I mean, to be perfectly frank, all the people who have their ROCs are established business operators. We're all part of the elite. How do we bring in the bottom groups of the huge amounts of bottom group of the LSMs in this country? How do we ensure a vibrant and free democracy through open access to information? I'm going to skip through this, but I do have some ideas of how we can modify the existing legislation. I think basing it off the USA model is a really good way to do it. There have been 0 incidents with drones and aircraft in the USA. So the idea that it's some sort of safety and security issue, I think can really be debated. And just final thoughts. I think we should be encouraging safe flying practices. Safe flying practices. I'm all about safety, but without being prescriptive or restrictive. And there's models around the world that we can do that. Drones have an enormous potential to add value to civic operations and small businesses all over the world, but especially in Africa, especially because of all the things that people have been talking about, disrupting infrastructure problems and challenges, like building roads in Africa. We can do that with drones. Drones for good speeds economic transformation. Skills development adds complexity at a low risk point for a country like South Africa. I think the risk is actually significantly lower than people make it out to be sometimes. And in addition, a welcoming regulatory environment tells the world we're open for investment and forward thinking. Wouldn't that be a nice way to present South Africa to the world?